I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring Dr. Richard Munang's groundbreaking book. It is called Mindset Change: Winning the War Against Poverty and Perception Through Climatepreneurship in Africa. This essential read delves into the innovative concept of climatepreneurship, combining entrepreneurship and climate action to transform Africa's socioeconomic landscape. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his important book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much, Logan, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine, sir. This is an important book for Africa and beyond, of course. Tell us, what is climatepreneurship?
Yeah, thanks again. The changing climate is no longer an abstract issue, and solutions are actually being put in place by the entire global community, coming together year after year to discuss solutions as well as lower emissions. But as that is happening in the global south, there are actions that are taken by young people, by the informal sector that makes up about 80%, especially in the African continent, of the mothers, the young people, the youth. They are using simple tools, for example, like simple solar dryers that can be able to dehydrate their vegetables. They are turning agricultural waste into fuel briquettes that can replace charcoal. They're turning waste into biogas that helps not only ensure that at least their health is intact, but actually reduce dependence on cutting down trees for charcoal. And so those actions, when they actually become marketable, is actually a lens in which climate change solutions can become business opportunities. And that is the essence of what is called climatepreneurship.
And it has the power to transform socioeconomic conditions in Africa as well, right?
Absolutely, because then people will put more money in more pockets and food on the table. If you take like a solar dryer, because in the entire African continent, whose harvest losses, the food that is produced by mothers in communities get wasted because they lack actually instruments in which they can be able to dry their vegetables, dry food, dry maize, dry cassava. And that then means that if you take a simple solar dryer that can be able to reverse the post-harvest losses, it will not just be helping to save food, but also helping that mother to be able to sell that food and put more money in more pockets. And that is actually the dimension to drive socioeconomics. Because one aspect, Logan, is that the biggest climate resilience and adaptation is socioeconomics. More money in pockets and food on the table.
Absolutely. Can you give us some examples of how climatepreneurship in action have made a significant impact on the society there?
Absolutely. In Uganda, for example, there is a kingdom called the Buganda Kingdom that is made up of 12 million people, because Africa do have the settings of kingdoms, of emirates. And the engagement with this kingdom was pretty much to help the communities, because they dry their vegetables on bare ground where it is contaminated with sand, with stones, as well as they dry their corn, they dry their cassava. And our intervention using solar dryers have seen them not only reverse the post-harvest losses, but have seen them turning cassava into cassava flour. And they're selling this and they're putting more money in more pockets. And more importantly, as a result of them having money as a result of drying their vegetables and their cassava in these solar dryers, they're saving in communal cooperatives, which are actually structures within the informal sector in the continent, that they are putting more money there as a result of them making money using these structures of solar dryers. And we're also seeing young people in Ghana who have come together, retold their skills through a tool that I developed called Innovative Volunteerism. And they are now then able to use waste, which is something that was not being used before, to turn it into fuel briquettes that are replacing charcoal. And they are creating and tapping into a market that is worth 20 billion US dollars. And a lot of them today have employment as a result of this. So those are practical examples that are dotted across the continent that, as a result of the work we do, has actually helped.
Absolutely. Doctor, you named the book Mindset Change. How do people need to change their mindsets in addressing these issues?
For over 30 years today, the discussion on climate change has been not only in around countries, but it's been in the corridors and even in sitting rooms and kitchen tables where we sing flood and drought. But the discussion have focused more on the problem and not on the solutions. And therefore, for us to focus sometimes on the finance, which is important to help communities to adapt, to focus on technology transfer, which is important to make sure that communities can have the requisite technologies that are needed, to focus on capacity building, which is important. But one of the aspects that has been missed in all this equation is to put humans, especially their skills, their talents, their passions, which constitute what is called human capital. And therefore, without looking at solutions through the lens of empowering humans, especially the young people who can provide and utilize the tools to make impact, then we'll be missing the point. And so we need to shift our minds from seeing climate as a problem to start seeing climate as a business opportunity. We need to shift our minds to start understanding that without igniting the passion, especially in young people, to become the solutions provider rather than victim of circumstances, we might not be able, even with the money, to make transformational climate impact across the world.
Absolutely. It's great advice. Focus on the solution more than the problem, and then you won't have a problem, which is what the ultimate goal is, of course. What are the main challenges Africa faces due to climate change? And tell me how individuals and communities can work together to overcome them through such things as perhaps volunteerism and so forth.
Absolutely. Just about 2 weeks ago, actually, Nairobi, where I am, faced one of the worst floods that saw loss of lives, over 250 lives and thousands of people displaced. Before that, there were droughts that saw people not only losing their crops, as well as cattle. And these floods are not just in Nairobi, they are across Africa, droughts across Africa, in the Sahel, displacing a lot of people. And so crop failure is actually a very prominent issue that is affecting families, displacing them to look for alternatives elsewhere, especially for those who rear cattle. But with all these challenges, it's reducing food on the table. It's reducing money in more pockets. And these realities of flood displacing even students and children to study in schools because schools are flooded, resulting in malaria because of the flooding that sometimes, because of clogging of waterways, result in not a good drainage. So from the health perspective to education perspective to food insecurity perspective, those challenges the continent are facing today. But what I've learned in my entire career, over 12 years in the climate change space, is that quite so often, the solutions to these very complex challenges are as simple, not as complex as they're made to see sometimes. And that in every community, especially local solutions to the local problems of climate change are accessible, but sometimes ignored. And for example, clean cooking is a big problem in the continent. Over 936 million Africans do not have access to clean cooking. They depend on charcoal. And this is leading to deforestation. And so the introduction of clean solutions, like turning agricultural waste from households to briquettes, have actually helped mothers not only to have clean air to breathe, because over 700,000 Africans die of indoor pollution, they are able to save money because they've been expending more money on charcoal. And the same goes for the solar dryers at the local level that we introduced, that communities are now using those solar dryers. It goes to the same of biodigesters that are turning waste into biogas that communities now are using. And on top of this, what we have seen is that more money is now put in more people's pockets and they can now afford alternatives. And so the challenges of the changing climate being real in the continent, causing pain. At the same time, people are starting to see the opportunities that are inherent in the very challenges that we see.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's so important that you've put these words out there in this book. Thank you so much for your time today, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Logan, for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Dr. Richard Munang has been sharing his insights on his powerful book. It is called Mindset Change and the Transformative Power of Climatepreneurship. For more enlightening conversations and practical solutions, be sure to buy the doctor's book and also to subscribe to our channel. I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.